Hi everyone, Slangel here from Slangel Designs, and today we're going to be going over the bean stitch. And the bean stitch is pretty cute. It's a stitch that gives you a lot of texture and a lot of definition in your stitches. So I have a few samples here that I worked up I want to show you before we start with the tutorial. This is what the stitch looks like if you use like a multicolored yarn or variegated yarn. This was just some leftover yarn from a project from years ago. This was a Bernat Super Saver. I don't have the color because that part of the label was kind of missing, but this is what it looks like. I find the texture's there, but sometimes it can be hard to see if you use a multicolor yarn. So something like the multicolor, if you liked it, if you wanted to do stripes, this is a 3-color. I think this was all the one palette. I think this was cornflower, just white, and elephant gray. This was the Yarn Inspirations Loops and Threads 1 pound. And you can see better with this where one row kind of angles one way and then the next row they angle back and forth. So if you wanted to maybe do, say you wanted to use the multi, instead of using maybe the white, you could have used like this in place of the white, just to kind of give it a bit of, break up the multicolor. Or if you wanted to just use one color throughout, it would be perfect for like a baby blanket. It makes really, really pretty, and it's nice and soft, and it is reversible, looks the same on the other side. So there's no need for that. And it's a 1-row repeat, even better. We love a 1-row repeat. And something that works up super quickly. I did all 3 of these little samples yesterday, probably in a couple hours, just sitting out back because it's still pretty hot here. I think my favorite is this one. It gives off like a very cottagey beach house kind of vibe, to the point where I'm actually debating getting more yarn to make a full-size one for my bedroom, for myself. Because usually, if you're like me, when you make a lot of projects, they're for other people or for gifts or whatever, and it's very rarely you get to actually make something and keep it for yourself. But I just thought that color combination, I liked it, and it would go perfect. So, as always, I will have a free PDF of the pattern for the stitch on the website, and I'll put the link for that in the description box. So for this, you can use whatever kind of yarn you want. Just make sure you're using the appropriate hook size. These are all a 4-weight yarn. One may look a little small. I counted, these are identical. I'm like, why isn't the other one? But apparently I stopped a row short on the pink one. So they work up super easy. So I'm using a 6mm hook, which is a J10, and I use worsted weight yarn. But again, if you want to use like a chunky or 3, like a baby weight yarn kind of thing, just adjust your hook accordingly, okay? So nothing too stressful, except you need to know what the bean stitch is. And I'm going to go over that, and it gives more written detail in the pattern, okay? So this is a stitch multiple where you would start your chain with any odd number of stitches. It has to be odd, and then once you have your odd, you're going to add 2. So if you, like I did these, I started with a chain of 31, and then I added 2, so I ended up with 33. So if you want to start with a chain of 99 for, say, a baby blanket, if that was going to be wide enough depending on your yarn. So here, let me just check. This is a worsted with a size 6mm hook, and this was the starting chain of 31 plus the 2, so it was a 33. That gives me just about a foot in width, okay? About a foot in width. So if you wanted to, say, make a 3-foot wide, like a baby blanket, you would do 93 plus 2, so 95. And then when you added your border on it, it would be good to go. So even if you wanted to do a quick little swatch, if you're using whatever yarn and adjusted the hook size, do up a quick little swatch of even like a 31 plus 2, so 33, and just measure it, and then you can kind of do the math on that to see how wide you want to do. If you're making like a crib size, kid size, twin, king, queen, whatever kind of, or lapgan, whatever size you wanted, you could make the appropriate adjustments. And plus everybody crochets a little differently. There's no specific gauge for this one. So somebody who may crochet a little tighter, it would end up being a little smaller. So if you did up a quick little swatch, even just in one color, and then that way you can even like pull it apart at the end to save your yarn so you don't waste it, you would at least know how big to make it, okay? So let's get right into it. I'm going to use this pretty kind of teal color. Put your yarn on your hook, whichever way is your favorite. I just do a slip knot. So I'm going to chain an odd number. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31. So there's my odd number, and then add 2 more, 32, 33. So now you've got your starting chain. So what you're going to do in the 3rd chain from the hook, I'm going to grab a needle here. So, minus the yarn. So the loop on your hook does not count, remember? So in the 3rd chain, so 1, 2, 3, in this chain here, if you can see that. Let me just bring this a little closer. I'm going to take my hook out. So the hook would be in here. So 1, 2, 3. In this chain here, we're going to go in as if we're going to single crochet. So 1, 2, 3. We're going to yarn over and pull up our loop. We have 2 loops on our hook. Now, we're not done. We're going to yarn over, put our hook back in, yarn over and pull up another loop. We now have 4 loops on our hook. Let's do that again. Yarn over, hook goes in, yarn over and pull up a loop. There's now 6 loops on my hook. We're going to yarn over, pull through all 6 loops. And sometimes your yarn gets stuck, so just be careful. Then we're going to chain 1 to close it. That's your first bean stitch. Then the pattern says to skip 1. We're going to put another bean stitch in the next one. So hook goes in, yarn over and pull up our loop. We have 2 loops on our hook. Yarn over, back into the same stitch, yarn over and pull up our loop, so we have 4 on our hook. Yarn over, back in the same spot, yarn over, pull up, 6 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through all 6. Then we're going to chain 1 to secure it. And this is what we're going to repeat across. We're going to skip the next stitch. In the next one, hook goes in as if you're going to do a single crochet, then yarn over, back in, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, back in, yarn over and pull up a loop. So you have 6 on there, and you want to kind of make sure when you're bringing up your loops that you're kind of making them even and stretching them up a little bit, not too far, excuse me, but just enough that it gives it a bit of definition. And then yarn over and chain 1 to close it. So skip the next stitch, hook goes in, yarn over, pull up, and see I'm kind of pulling it up until it's even. Then yarn over, in and pull up a loop, yarn over, in and pull up a loop, 6 loops on the hook again, yarn over, pull through all 6, and then chain 1 to close. So I'm going to we'll do this one more time here. Skip, hook goes in, yarn over and pull up your loop, so you have 2 on the hook, yarn over into the same stitch, yarn over and pull up another loop, 4 on your hook, yarn over, back into that same stitch, yarn over and pull up your loop, 6 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through all 6, and then chain 1 to close the stitch. Bean stitch done. So you can see how that's going. So I'm going to keep on going here. So once you get the hang of it, it can go pretty quickly, okay? Because you're going to skip in and up, yarn over, in and up, yarn over, in and up. Skip. And then when we get to the end of the row, I'll show you how to finish this row, because this is your foundation row, okay? This isn't the repeat row. The second row is what you're going to repeat for the length of your project. And after I do a row or two, I'll show you how I change colors. And if you are going to do, you could easily do 2 colors if you wanted to. I do recommend 3 colors, and I'll explain to you why here, and I'll show you on the sample why I recommend the 3. It makes it super pretty, but there's a practical reason as well, okay? All right, we're getting there. So I do have another project that needs to be finished, recorded. Majority of it's recorded, but it's been so hot that the office, even with the air conditioning kicking, it's been super hot here. So it's been kind of uncomfortable. And it's been like that a lot of places around. All right, so we're coming to the end. So skip one, do one here. All right, so we have 2 stitches left. So we're going to skip one like we normally would, and in our last one, we're going to do our bean stitch. Yarn over and do chain 1 to close that up. So that's the first row done, your foundation row, okay? And you can see all your little bean stitches there. Now, for row 2, we're going to chain 2, 1, 2, turn our work. Now, when you're looking at this from this side, or when you first flip your row over, if you kind of look, there's almost like little stitch holes in between each bean stitch that look like little triangles. That's where you're going to be working. So if I take my hook out, see in here, in there, and you can kind of see them to the left of each bean stitch. All right, see that? See how there's, let me get the needle here. In between each bean stitch, there's almost like a little triangle. See in there? So that's where you're going to be working. And I have that described in the pattern for the stitch. So you've chained 2. Into that first triangle, you're going to put a bean stitch. Chain 1 to close it. Then you're going to go right in to the next triangle space beside the next, to the left of the next bean stitch, and put another one. Then into the next triangle space to the left. Oh, apparently my yarn broke. So I get for using little part balls. Let me just tie that on. Oh, I did not know that was going to happen. All right. So, into the next, when you're looking, if you kind of, sometimes you may have to pull it apart a little bit just to kind of see, but once you get going, you're going to recognize. So into there, as if you're going to single crochet, yarn over, in, and pull up a loop. 4, yarn over, in, pull up a loop. 6, yarn over, pull through all. chain 1 to close. So you can see as you get going how it can go pretty quickly, because this is what you're going to repeat for the length of your project. Okay, so I know, like, I always find once you get a couple rows done, there's more fabric and more of the piece to kind of hold on to, and for you to see where you're going. And I don't, once I get going, I don't necessarily count, like, you know, the single, like in for single, in for yarn over. I just know it's 1, 2, 3, all, chain 1, in for 1, yarn over, in for 2, yarn over, in for 3, and that gives me my 6. So that may be just a me thing, but I just find the rhythm of it, I get into it, and it goes pretty quickly. And sometimes that happens. So from now on, you are always going to be working in that little triangle space to the left of the bean stitches. So we're coming up to the end of the row here. A few more and then I'll show you how I change colors. And don't forget to be doing that chain 1 after you yarn over and pull through all 6 loops, because that's important to keep that bean stitch in place. All right, so when you get to the end here, you do have a space. It's hard to see, but there is a space between the bean stitch and what you did for the, what was the chain 3 that was left at the beginning. So you're going to go in and put your bean stitch in that space between the chain and the bean stitch, and then yarn over and pull through to close. Now here's where I would take my new yarn and just kind of loop it over my hook and chain 2, and then come back and kind of tighten and tie those 2 yarns together so that there's no chance of it coming out. So then I would turn my work. I'm not cutting. Now, if you were doing just 2 colors, you would have to cut this yarn and weave in that end. And I'll explain why. This is why I recommend the 3 colors, because you'll notice on this one, if you're doing 3 colors, you do blue, you switch to the, you're doing the blue, then you switch to the elephant gray, and then when you get to this end, you switch to the white. You'll notice that on the side, because you're always going to be starting the blue on this side and starting the elephant gray on this side, you can carry the yarn up the side and then cover that up with a border. So you're not going to have an end for the blue and the gray on each one. And then I also carried the white, or the elephant, yeah, the white up and the elephant gray up on this side. So it really cuts down on the number of ends you're going to have to weave in at the end if you do 3 colors and carry it up the side. Okay, but if you're just doing 2 colors, because you're going to have to start this color, the teal, at the end on the left side, again, you'd have to cut it so that you can join it here. You're going to have multiple, you'll have 2 ends in every row, which, if you're like me, I try to avoid as many ends as possible. All right, so we've chained 2, and then again, we're going to be working in that triangle space to the left of the bean stitch. Yarn over and in, or sorry, in, we're going to go in, yarn over and pull up a loop, 2, yarn over and in and pull up a loop, yarn over, in and pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through them all, chain 1 into the next triangle space next to the bean stitch, and put another bean stitch. So yeah, I do if you're going to do multiple colors, I do recommend 3 just to save your sanity for carrying up the yarn on the side. Okay. So I'm going to work across here and show you the end again so you can see where we're going to put the last bean stitch and move up to the next row. Now if you wanted to, if you wanted to do 2 colors, what you could also do is 2 rows of each, so that at the end you would just have to carry it up the side on one side. You could easily do that. Instead of alternating every row, you could do every 2 rows. The carrying the yarn up the side would work that way as well. And that would be pretty. And maybe what I'll do is I'll get to the end here and show you the end again, and then work across one more time and show you how I carry the yarn up. And then all that yarn carry up gets hidden with a border of your choice. A nice shell border would look good on this, in my opinion. I know I'm going a little faster here. I'm just trying to get to the end to show you. Oh, that's where the stuff quit on me there. So let's move that out of the way for a second. One of my pet peeves is if you've got like a big ball of yarn and you get partway through and it's got like, it's tied together. I know that's just in the factory and there's nothing they can do about it. But when you're going along and they've got like a knot, it's like, ugh. All right, so again, we're at the end. You've got your last bean stitch, but we got our chain 2 in here where you're going to go to the left of the bean stitch, and you're going to put it in between the chain 2 and the bean stitch, okay? And then chain to close it, chain 2 to go up to the next row, yarn over, or turn your work over, sorry. Those ends are bugging me. So you could either swap the colors again, or like I'm suggesting, do another row so that when you get down to the end, you can easily carry your yarn up. So I'm going to work across to the end and show you how I carry my yarn up the side. So while I'm doing this, just to, I'd like to thank everybody for all the support of the channel lately. I really appreciate it. And any constructive criticism, I appreciate that as well. I know somebody had suggested perhaps a different opening music, and I am looking into that because it has to be copyright free, right? So I have to be careful with what I choose. So I may mix the music up. I'll keep the graphics the same because I like them. And chain 1. And I know it seems early, but I think we're going to start looking at some possibly Christmas projects in case there's anything people might be interested in making for gifts for friends and loved ones. So we're going to be looking at a few of those. I do still have some lives planned, just where I'm working on some projects and some samples. I have almost the sample done for the shawl that I put the poll about, if people were interested in learning that. That's a knit project, so I've been working on that. So a few things coming down the road. Could be fun. All right, we're getting to the end here. And you can see it works up pretty quickly, okay? Now, we're going to go in and we're going to put our last bean stitch. Oh, our last bean stitch in that chain 3 space before the beans, to the left of the bean stitch. And we're going to yarn over and pull through all 6 and do our chain 1 to close it. Now, here's where we're going to set that yarn aside, and then I hadn't cut the teal color off. So what I'm going to do is do my chain 2, not pull it too tight. You kind of want it level with the bean stitch and where your stitches would be, and then turn your work, and you're going to start doing your bean stitches as you normally would because you've done your chain 2. I'll just do a couple here and I'll show you the side. But yeah, I suggest then instead of doing every row a color change, if you're going to do multiple colors, to do every 2 rows so that you can carry your stitches up, because then you're just going to have this one end to weave in, and you can see this is staying, this is waiting here for you. When you go down and come back, you would carry this up again, so you can see how it just nicely goes up the side. And when you do your border, those will get covered. So yeah, that is the bean stitch. Super simple, works up super quick, and it's not, it looks like it would be heavy. It's not. It's actually still a fairly light fabric. This would be nice. You could turn it into a scarf. You could make a pillow cover. You could turn around, make a tote bag, a blanket. If you had, you could even use it for a sweater if you wanted to. Be a very nice pattern. I just love, this is my favorite. So yeah, if you have any questions, comments, or if you have any suggestions for other designs or patterns you might like to see, stitches, whether it's a knitting one or a crocheting one, please feel free to leave them in the comments. I try to read the comments as they come in, but sometimes I do take a couple days if I'm not checking things quickly. I will get back to you as soon as I can though, okay? So hopefully this makes sense to you, and hopefully you get to make a pretty project out of it. If you decide to go with multiple colors, let me know how you got along. Let me know if you did every 2 rows, every 3 colors, how you change your colors if you carry the yarn up the side. If you have any other questions, again, let me know, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. And I hope you enjoy the bean stitch. And again, free PDF will be available on the website for you to download, okay? If you have any problems finding the PDF, because you have to kind of go to the page and then scroll down, just let me know and I can post a direct link. All right, so take care, happy crocheting or knitting, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye-bye.